welcome to the Chaos. I am Fetch, and with me today is Samurai, because we're doing something a little bit different today. Normally, for our interviews, it's just about winners of Chaos tournaments, but Samurai here is a staff member, one of our casters over at Chaos, and he just won something pretty big with a very interesting deck that we thought would be fun to bring on and talk about. So, Samurai, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with the Mox Masters Invitational?
Hi, Samurai Dancer. My experience with the Mox Masters Invitational was absolutely wonderful. Registration was Friday, got in, flight easy. Went in, double checked, made sure I was signed up. Um, Next day, we played 5 rounds. Uh, Started off with a win, which is a great way to start off any tournament. Uh, lost, won, draw. Um, we basically the draw was with 3 people that had locked it, and one person he ended up getting 17th place. So we were all just at the end of the day going like, well, we have to play till best of 2 tomorrow if we do play tomorrow. So we were all thinking, let's get in, get sleep. So we drew that round, and I felt bad for the guy who got 17th place, but that just goes to show he was super close. Our math on that was pretty good. Next day, semifinals. I sit down. I've got a guy on Blue Farm. I have a great matchup with Blue Farm. And then I see LJ, who I lost to yesterday, playing, Edric. And then I see Max on Thrasios Vile Smasher, who I lost to yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, and I'm going third in the pod, and I'm like, let's see if we can do this. Mold to 4. Let's see if we can just not look bad.
Not a great way to inspire confidence there.
Especially because the Blue Farm player went first, Snap kept 7. We were all like, okay, so we just lose. So like Snap keeps 7 on Blue Farm. What is this going to be? Turn 2 breach? But Glenhorn will get things done.
Well, and for those of you who aren't aware, the deck that Samurai brought is Malcolm Kediss, which not a lot of people were talking about, and then Ian brought it to, I believe it was Treasure 6, and brought Malcolm Kediss, and there was kind of a little bit of memeing on it. Some people were like, oh, this is pretty cool. It brought some more interest to it. But your list has some very major differences from Ian's. As we'll get more into it later, but you've got some major includes that drastically affect the game plan of the deck.
Yeah. So just so you know, Ian probably could have built a better deck, but he got a viewer requested deck, and they submitted the list, and it was supposed to be a budget list, so he had to keep it under a certain amount. And Ian, being the GOAT, the absolute goddamn best player and of this quarter of the format, top 16 with it, and just said, yeah, I can take a joke to a tournament. And I was like, wait, that's not that funny.
But I mean, you took this joke list and turned it into something that is very scary and does a lot of really unique, very cool things.
Yeah, that was started off as a conversation in the Chaos League voice chat. We were looking at Ian's list, and we were kind of joking about it. I had been on Malcolm Crom for a hot minute. I love Malcolm, been playing with it since the beginning of the year, since Chaos Treasure Series. It wasn't Chaos Treasure Series, it was Chaos 7. You guys changed it to Treasure Series partway through.
Before, yeah.
Yeah. I was playing Malcolm Rog. It was fast. I thought it would be fast enough. It was. I top 16 with it, and I was like, okay, but it's not consistent. It's too much variance. And so I was like, well, what if I added a draw engine to it? Let's go Malcolm Crom. And then Freedom told me, he's like, oh, yeah, my friend plays a list a little bit different from Ian's, where he runs like all the type changers like to get some hack ball going. So it makes it a lot more consistent. It allows you to run intuition to search 3 of any one card in the deck. And I was like, oh, you know what? I got 6 days till Mox Masters and qualifiers. I'll pick it up. Let's do it. How good could it be? Okay. Let's talk for this.
Yeah.
Took it to the next Chaos Treasure series that same month of September, and top 16 with it, and then October, boom, we took it to all the way.
Yeah. Been an absolute tear. And yeah, talking about the type changers, you've got Maskwood Nexus, Trickery Charm, which I don't think a lot of people know what it does, and then Artificial Evolution, I believe, is the last one.
So if you actually, if you were to hit tag, sort by tag and type on my deck list, you would find a very interesting setup for it. I have 12 sets of 3 in that deck. So I also run intuition, but basically, this deck is all about redundancies and consistencies. We run all 3 of those type changers. Specifically, people have asked me why I don't run other ones. Because Artificial Mutation is a 1-mana drop. Trickery Charm is a 1-mana drop. Maskwood Nexus is fetchable from Transmute Artifact, Magna, and Tezzeret. Also, Maskwood Nexus entering the battlefield will trigger the main combo of Malcolm, Artifact Pinger, our type changer. So Maskwood entering will immediately trigger that chain.
I mean, it seems like a powerful interaction there.
It is very powerful. The best part is there's really Torpor doesn't deal with this. Stony Silence doesn't deal with this.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing that really deals with that because it's an artifact entering the battlefield that has a continuous effect that changes it. If you were to wrong Song of Freyles, or it's like Song of Titania, I think, or Song of Freyles, the one that turns all artifacts into 1/1 creatures without abilities, that would deal with it. Everything else doesn't.
Yeah, the fact that it's that hard to stop. It's basically you need to counter or kill a creature, and if you can't, that's it. That's game.
Mm-hmm. And artifacts are super hard to counter in this format. There's a lot of non-creature counters, but most of them are limited to instants and sorceries and enchantments. So it being an artifact, being very easy to not even have to cast, to just straight up slam onto the field using one of my other really hard to counter things, Magna or Tezzeret, who are really hard to counter, makes it a lot easier. More importantly, Maskwood Nexus each of those type changers I have used to do things besides their type changing besides to win. I literally shut off a Marwyn deck with the Artificial Evolution, changing it so it only gets counters off jellyfishes. Immediately stopped them. I have used Trickery Charm to look at the top 4 of my library and rearrange it in order. I've used it to give Facebreaker flying. I've used it to give Ragavan flying. Maskwood Nexus, I have used to... That is actually the most broken one because it allows me to search out anything with Magna, including a Tandem Lookout and a Niv Mizzet.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah. It also makes Goblin Matron just tutor a creature to your hand.
Yeah, that's pretty disgusting right there. Wow. But before we full on dive into the rest of the deck tech and breaking down every last bit of this and the way that you play it, let's finish up your experience over with tournaments. Talking about how you made it all the way through that mold of 4 to the finals. And I believe they had it where finals you had to win twice.
It was first to 2. So potentially 5 games. A lot of people were worried that it was going to become a very toxic environment. I know certain players wanted to do a conversation beforehand to make sure it didn't. I said, hey, I don't know you. You don't know me. There's a lot of money on this. Let's not say things that we might not be able to keep or someone else might break and then make them feel bad. Let's just say we're going to play this as competitively as possible. We're going to treat this with the rules and just trust that the player next to you has integrity and will do the right thing, or we'll play the format with integrity. That's all we got to worry about. So there was no spite packs, even though that was on the table. There was no conceding to make someone else's win not happen, which could actually happen to me. If two players concede, a Glenhorn doesn't work. It's just how that works. But we didn't do that. We were actually very much, hey, we're some of the best players. We really were. I don't know if you know Big Richie, right? Or you've heard of him?
I think so. Yeah, I've interacted
Uh,
or
he's been
seen him play at least.
he was a big stay in the format for a while. Then you have Kai, Fervent Alchemist, an absolute go to the format. And
Love for
in all
Alchemist.
honesty, I am not well known in the format for being good at the format. But I've definitely been around the block in the format. The person that was playing Sisse won. He made it through the last chance qualifier to get there. Literally,
Jeez.
I think the funniest thing was when he sat down and they were like, "Oh, so what's your Discord name?" And he said, "Oh, I don't play on webcam." It was just like, oh, it's
Wow.
yeah, he got in the hard way, and he made it all the way to top 4. His deck is a Sisse partner with Dockside, Partners in Crime. And we were all like, yeah, we're some of the best players. We're just going to go for a win. Period. That's what CDH is about. It's about going for the win. There's no feelings. There's no attachments. There's no salt in it. The only salt that comes from it is maybe with people playing with less than ideal ethics and not with the integrity. Maybe trying to do a he said, she said. That's not part of CDH. That's bad sportsmanship. But top 4, we didn't have to worry about it. We've all been in the format. We've all had integrity for a while. So it was very easy to play the game and not have to really be worried about someone playing doing a shady trick or something like that. I happened to go win the first run, lost the second one, win the first one. That was mostly due to, I feel, the Sisse player bowled down to very low. I think it was 4 or 5. They had to keep a hand. They were talking about it because they kept hands with Esper Sentinel all 3 games, and they were talking about it in the third game. They're like, I don't want to see that card. I have lost every game so far with that card. He's like, in the rounds I lost the card. In the semifinals I won without seeing that card. This is the omen of badness. And he gets down to 4, and he's like, I guess I'll keep. And he's like, plays Esper Sentinel. And we're like, bro. And he's like, I know, man. This is gonna be bad. And then Kai mind break trapped me on turn 1 on my Malcolm, which was super solid. That was the correct thing. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play a turn 2, but this is gonna save you guys from dying on turn 2.
Yeah.
So he did that. Clark, unfortunately, did not draw the right lands to do what he needed to do. So, and then Kai had to use his last piece of interaction to stop a blind obedience, which he is well aware really warped the first game into my favor, but also would have been into Sisse's favor. Tap treasures for everybody but the Sisse, or for everybody except the guy running Magna, is not good.
Yeah.
So Kai was like, I have to do this. He did that, and he was like, okay, well, I guess I'll play Narset. And I think he was trying to bluff a deflecting swat, I think he was either he had a deflecting slot or he's trying to bluff having a fierce. The Clark player played Clark. Unfortunately, I think he forgot he didn't play an island. So he was holding up Submerge in his hand and Mind Break Trap. So 2 really good pieces of interaction, unless, no, he doesn't have an island.
Yeah.
So it gets to my turn, and I just drop. I have Malcolm from the previous turn again. I played it on turn 2 for 5 mana. I have so much mana in that deck. And I just played Fervent Alchemist and dropped the Maskwood Nexus, triggering it. And they all went around the table. Clark, I think, realized halfway through the Sisse's turn that he didn't have an island. So he was like, I'm not even going to try to bluff this. I don't have it. I kept a Mind Break Trap, which would be great. But Samurai only played 2 spells. and so he tosses him down that's why we laughed so hard, because he was like, yeah, I was ready for everything except not having the island.
Yeah.
But it was great playing those guys. Kai is such a much better player than me that I'm very glad it ended on game 3 and not going later because, uh, but most of the reasons that I was able to get to that tournament, I would credit to the webcam tournaments from Chaos and playing with Power, but more importantly, the league play that I get on Chaos tournaments. Uh,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have the deck if I hadn't met Freedom Waffle in the league and had him kind of conversate with me about it. Uh, I wouldn't have been able to be confident playing it in a tournament if I hadn't been able to jam high quality games uh, on it. The trick with any deck in any league, though, is to remember do not play more than 4 or 5 games a day because people will start to warp to adjust to your deck gameplay. That's not how a tournament's going to be. People aren't going to suddenly go like, "Oh, this is my 4th game against you. I'm going to," because they're not going to play you 4 times.
Well, and then you also do have prepping for fatigue as well, and in this instance, playing like if you're playing in a webcam tournament, at most you're going to be playing 7 games in one day.
At most 7 games, but at least 12 hours.
Yeah.
That's the downside. It's like 7 games, but at least 12 hours. My trick, my secret spice that I do for this is I will sleep in between rounds. I literally just go onto my bed, crank up the AC, and I'll set a timer. I really like that Chaos and Playing with Powers Mox Masters post to like when rounds will be over now. Due to the intermittent software, it actually has the timer going. God bless Command Tower. So I literally go like, I can sleep for 15 minutes. I'm going to rest my mind, and I will grab and put an energy drink into the fridge, or I'll put water into the fridge. Stay hydrated, stay caffeinated, and stay rested. Because you will be surprised. I lost over that weekend about 10 pounds just because of how much mental energy I lost and how little you can actually eat during that time.
Yeah.
It was like literally, I was like, oh man, my belt wasn't fitting right as I got onto the plane. I was just burned out. I was so surprised. My mind was just, I was physically, mentally exhausted, and you don't even realize it until you get to the end. I do know my hands shook after every round that I won because I have a thing where like I'll tell myself anxiety. I'll be like, I have a lot of anxiety, and I'll tell myself, hey, you have until this game ends to remain calm. Remain calm. You can lose it all immediately after, like immediately. My hands, if you ever watch me play, will start shaking as I try to record stuff, or try to touch stuff afterwards, like picking up dice. It's literally because of that.
I appreciate all your tips, honestly, helping out fellow tournament grinders. That's some really interesting stuff. I have a feeling the sleeping in between rounds might not work for everyone, but some great tips there from a great tournament grinder. Now, let's dig into the deck here. I'll say, starting off, what is your general game plan? What are you looking for in a mulligan? What is your, like, obviously you're talking about how much fast mana you have and how quickly you can get out Malcolm, but what is your game plan the majority of the time?
All right, so if you were to scroll down to my list, you would notice that my ramp package, I have no 2 mana ramp at all.
Yeah.
That's because I need to have a value engine on by turn 1. So if whether that be Malcolm is just the easiest one to assemble, that is a mana rock or a jeweled load. Like any mana rock and a land will normally get him. Like what? And I'll try to like just mull down to get to 3 mana to get him online. That is the easiest. It's not the best. People will question me about like what makes me decide to keep moles. It is literally you need a value engine uh, from mulligan numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, like all the way down to once you get down below 5, you need to just be able to cast Malcolm. Like from 4 onwards, it needs to be cast Malcolm or cast a wheel that eventually. You don't have to worry about it first turn. Just be eventual. Keep a hand with 4 lands if you have to. Keep a hand with 3 lands. uh, because the deck does run so much redundancy, it is fine to keep a hand with that many lands when you mull down below, because you just need to make sure you can get Malcolm and Kediss going at some point. Because you'll just ramp right up, so you don't have to worry about mana. From that point on, you just like top decks are just easy. Like people think I top deck a lot. It's like it's not that I top deck a lot. It's just there's a lot to top deck. That's why we run 3 of everything. But ideally, you want the best one is obviously the One Ring on turn 1 is the most ideal. And barring that, Rhystic, it goes Rhystic, Mystic, Malcolm, and then a Curiosity. If you can't get Malcolm, Curiosity on a Reckless Fireweaver is better. Like I will literally go like, oh, this doesn't do Malcolm, but it does do Reckless Fireweaver with Curiosity, and I have a rock to play after that. Yeah, I'll keep that. That's super easy.
Well, and you run both Curiosity and Ophidian Eye, and you've got a ton of pingers that can capitalize off that. And even if you don't have those pingers, Malcolm plus Kediss means whenever you swing, you're dealing damage to everyone and drawing 3.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well,
yeah.
I don't just run Ophidian Eye and Curiosity. I run Ophidian Eye, Curiosity, and Tandem Lookout, specifically for that redundancy. So that way I can just go, hey, it's time to search out Ophidian Eye, Tandem Lookout, and Curiosity if I need to, because those are A plus Bs with Niv, Mizzet, and Glenhorn.
Yeah.
That's just game breaking, ending the will end it. That's also why I run Time Twister in the deck, is so that I can just drop a Curiosity on Niv Mizzet, draw until it hit the Time Twister and some free mana and play it. And then that'll kill the whole table, because it'll reset the Niv and we'll just keep going from there.
Makes sense.
We're running, I think, 6 really good draw cards. And then we're running what I like to call 3 wheel effects, Jessica's Will, Wheel of Fortune, and Time Twister. They do 3 very different things for the deck, and they have 3 very different situations for them. But I run those specifically so that I can mull down to 3 and 4 pretty safely, and even 2 if need be. Mm-hmm. It's really added a lot to the deck. I've tried decks that cut those, and I've noticed you can't go below 4, and you can't really go below 5 and expect to win. But in my deck, because I'm running those 3 other wheels, wheel-like effects, it really does just allow you to spring back into it really fast and recover. And I feel like right now the most devastating thing you can do to a really good pod is turn 1 wheel. Turn 1 wheel, and if no one mulled down low, will just decimate most people, because I think a lot of people fail to realize good CDH players know how to mulligan and sculpt their hand with a mulligan. So if you destroy that, it's like, I think the closest we come to that and anything else would be why they had to get rid of card destruction in Yu-Gi-Oh! Was turn 1, getting rid of someone's hand is devastating, even if they replace the cards.
Yeah. Well, in turn 1 wheel, everyone knows it's a risky thing, but running as much interaction as you do also really helps to make sure, even if someone does draw into the nuts, you have a way of slowing them down.
Yeah. That's why a lot of our interaction, basically all of our interaction, is either semi-free or 1 mana. Mm-hmm. I think the closest we get to not being 1 or free is Snap, which is which basically resets its investment. Mm-hmm. So it's basically free, but you still got to have the 2 mana to do it. So, but I consider it free mana, a free interaction spell. That's because a lot of times on turn 2 you want to drop Kediss. Hopefully, most of the times you'll actually have 1 mana after Kediss. So that'll allow you to sort of protect your Malcolm as it goes for the attack to drop you up to 4 treasures. To 3 treasures, basically. It's basically to make sure your Malcolm is protected as you play your value engines, as you go for these attacks, as you try to build up your treasure base. Lets you play Niv Mizzet and not have to worry about them immediately killing it because you have so many free spells that you'll draw 1-2 cards off Niv Mizzet minimum, maybe ping something down, uh, and if they counter over it, that means you drew 3 cards and ping something down. So it's a 4/4/2.
Well, and one of the things that when we first saw Comedian play this Malcolm Kediss list at Treasure 6, one of the things that got talked about both on stream and at the podcast was, while, yeah, you get a ton of mana really consistently, the thing that you can do after, as far as like what big thing you're slamming down, isn't as consistent. You have very much fixed that problem with just how much redundancy you have.
That was one of the major changes that I made, going up to the 3 of everything. Does allow me to consistently have a threat that I will drop down. Also, cutting the less than stellar performers of Nezahal. It's just never. It's like, yeah, I could play it, just never was a good time. Never was that good to play. Was made me really wish it was a Remora instead of a Nezahal. I still kept in Consecrated Sphinx because I do run wheels, and I have yet to lose a game where I draw 42 cards, 49 cards off a wheel. Yeah, haven't lost a game where I do that. I don't know why. It's boggles my mind. But on average, I love running Sphinx because it will draw me normally around 2 to 4 cards immediately and make someone use some real resources on it on a card that doesn't win me the game. It is not a win con. So it's like that's removal, that's interaction that is gone for my actual attempt to go for a win. But they had to do it because I will still win through sheer value of resources from it. I also stopped running Gilded Drake. There's a lot of clones in this meta. I don't want to give people free Gilded Drakes. It's a 3/3 blocker. Malcolm's a 2/2. I don't want to give my opponent a great blocker.
Yeah.
And I run clones, so I'm not too worried if someone Gilded Drakes me because I'll Gilded Drake, make a clone, and then I have a 3/3 blocker and my commander, and they have a Fimage. Or they have a Cursed Mirror, which has just been great as a Gilded Drake replacement. It's like, here, have a little red mana rock. That's also why I'm up 3 clones effects, and 2 of them are the artifacts. Because I do run Magna and I do run Tezzeret and Transmute. Being able to get them out, especially Phyrexian Metamorph, which can come in as the One Ring, has been really good. Cursed Mirror. Since I've added Cursed Mirror to the deck, I've had really good matchups with Nagilis. Because I have found that, strangely enough, I can do Nagila beats almost as well as Nagila decks can consistently.
Jeez.
Yeah, because apparently making 3 treasures off 1 attack with a pirate and maybe being able to attack 2 other people's with pirates and having a Nagila really adds up fast.
Yeah.
Especially when one of my pirates is dealing damage to everybody.
Yeah.
That's why I added Curse Mirror has been really good for that. More importantly, they are dockside duplicates. And since I do run Magda, being able to tutor out a dockside duplicate that makes more treasures, that can tutor out the other dockside duplicate, to tutor out the Maskwood Nexus, that can tutor out another dockside duplicate, that can tutor out the Wincon. It's pretty good.
Well, and I mean, you mentioned Magda. Magda seems like the absolute nuts in this deck.
Oh, yeah. Being only 2 treasures away off 1 Malcolm hit with Magda, I'll normally just play her just to kind of scare people. Like, if I'm looking at my hand and I don't really have a threat and I really don't want them to, like... I kind of want them to interact now or to be a little bit more cautious. I'll toss down Magda to just kind of make them, like, either blow some interaction or to actually keep up blockers for only one... Because If Magda's on the field and I'm not immediately activating her, she's bait. Just straight up. It's like that's
Mhm.
some good bait. You should hit that Magda because I will win with her. It's like maybe not this turn, probably not this turn, maybe not next turn, but you should hit her, not the Malcolm. Don't hit the Malcolm. Come on, leave the Malcolm alone. Hit the scary dwarf lady.
If they don't hit her, it does eventually. You either get Niv Mizzet or you get Maskwood Nexus, or even just the One Ring, and
Hmm.
any of those three. Not to mention you're talking about the clone effects.
That's what I. This is why this deck is just like the worst for people because the mind games. People get terrified when I throw down a Reckless Fireweaver in this deck. Um, like it's literally just a flinch response from people. They cannot handle how much of this deck is just a threat. Like there's a reason I don't run Lightning Rig Crew. It's because he's not a threat.
Mm.
People ask me, "Oh, you should run it because it makes 3 treasures, immediately refunds it when it comes down." I'm like, I don't need a refund. I have Kediss for that. What I need is to kill people. Lightning Rig doesn't do that. Reckless Fireweaver can do that. If not, I'll at least draw 9 cards off of Malcolm swinging a Curiosity on him.
That's actually disgusting.
It really is. It's why the Curiosity effects. People have asked me to cut they're like you should probably cut Ophidian Eye. It's the weakest one, or Tandem Lookout. I'm like, well, Tandem's searchable with Magda and Imperial Recruiter, so that's not happening. Ophidian Eye has Flash, so that's really not happening. If I was going to get rid of a Curiosity effect, it'd probably be Curiosity, but Curiosity costs 1, so I don't really need the mana that bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say like the weakest line in the deck. I like to call the three boogeymen of the deck is Niv Mizzet. Glenhorn is boogeyman number 1. Glenhorn's the card that everybody is terrified because it is an A plus B with my commander. People do not want to see that touchdown. They are terrified. They're scared. They see it. They immediately clinch because it'll just kill. It's just what it does. People see Niv Mizzet, they get a little nervous. They know they got to deal with it eventually, but they're terrified if I have open mana with it. But if I tap out to play it, people kind of like forget that it's going to win the game a little bit. They do forget that I just will drop a Curiosity on it.
Mm.
Um, and then one of the scariest cards that I told you I go Intuition for the win a lot. I've yet to have
Mm.
anybody give me this card to hand. Is I go Intuition, Underworld Breach, Niv Mizzet, and Glenhorn Buccaneer, and no one has ever given me Breach. No one has ever said Breach is okay. People have given me a Dockside over Breach. People have given
But
me a Maskwood Nexus, a Magda, a Type Changer over Breach. Breach has always been that's just not okay for you to have card. And I'm like, well, good, because it's the most convoluted win line in the deck. I'm probably not even going to win with it, but I do need some filler to make you kind of think that you have stopped my win, or to make you think that I'm
mm.
doing some mind game with you to give me the Breach. Um, but because I really don't have a way to really truly loop it, except with what is it? Wheels and Brain Freeze. So if you don't see those 2 cards, it's probably not the scariest thing. If my graveyard isn't stacked with like 8 cards in it, probably not the scariest thing to give me a Breach. But people don't see it that way. People see it like, oh, he's gonna play Breach and go Intuition off his 5 mana. He's gonna get Lion's Eye Diamond, Savines, and Brain Freeze. And I'm like, well, I don't run one of those, so that's gonna be hard. They're just terrified of the card, and it's very interesting. It's very fun. And people always tell me to cut it. I'm like, no, because they're terrified of it. I never get to play it, but it does win. Like, it does win. It does allow me to get back cards. I'm not in green. I don't have the little hacks of Eternal Witness to get back my Time Twister, to get back my Niv Mizzet.
Mm.
It's either run Underworld Breach or run Elixir of Immortality, and I tried Elixir, and it didn't work. So we're not
Yeah.
doing that.
But I mean, the level of consistency you have with having 3 of basically every effect. It's like Blasphemous Act you run in here. It's honestly
I'm
pretty
really high on
insane.
Blast Act. I don't think enough people run it in their red decks. That card is absolutely goated. If you're not on Adnos, run Blast Act. Like, the only people that shouldn't run it are people on Adnos, because 9 mana for a card that doesn't draw you cards is bad. For everybody
Mhm.
else, 13 damage to the board. People play Dorks. People play Forbidden Orchard. You will get there a lot faster than you think, and it's really freaking hard to survive it. Tivit
Yeah.
doesn't survive it. I'd say like there's 3 decks that I do not look forward to playing in a tournament. I'm not worried about losing to these decks. I'm just worried about it ending in a draw. Tivit, because Tivit does kind of like what my deck does, except it has white and black, so it's a little bit more consistent and a little bit less interactable. Uh,
Yeah.
I hate running into Kidden, but I can beat Kidden. The thing that I
Mhm.
don't, so instead of Kidden, what I don't want to run into is a Yuriko.
Interesting.
Yuriko, I told you I can deal with every stacks piece in the format for the most part, except there's like one that I really can't deal with. It's Chains of Mephistopheles.
Yeah.
Nothing in my deck says that doesn't just shut me down from value. Uh, and they run that. They run Torpor. They run Curse Totem. They run Grafdigger's Cage. They run they run every stacks piece, and they don't mind dropping them all. They don't care. It doesn't. None of them affect them, so they don't care. They will just drop every stacks piece on you, and it's just going to add up really fast. They bring out flyers that block. They're attacking me all the time. I'm losing a lot of life. I don't really want to block because I'm, getting ready to go on this. So it wears you down really fast on it. The next deck that I don't want to play against, that I think I have a really bad matchup is Kenrith, the Return King. There's only 3 decks that I just don't want to face against with this deck. It's Kenrith is one of them because he's a Dockside deck. That's a reanimation deck. So I play a lot of good threats that people have a tendency to get rid of. And it's really easy for Kenrith to play a reanimation spell to get him back, or to get free value off his Dockside and then win. And unlike with a lot of the other Dockside decks, I can kind of outvalue them. I can outdraw them. Like, Blue Farm is the deck that I just don't care about. It's like everything that I do just ignores them. And I do it better than them because I'm a little bit more focused and I don't have to worry about my life total.
Mhm.
So for me, it's like, oh, Blue Farm. Okay. Kinnan. Okay. Like, it's Kinnan. What are you going to do? You're going to play a bunch of artifacts? Cool. I run Dockside. Uh, you're going to run a bunch of spells? That's cool. I run Niv Mizzet. He kills your Kinnan repeatedly. Najila? Great. I run clones. I needed a Najila. Like, I love those 3 decks because run clones and I run cards that just say I wanted to play your deck a little bit faster than you did
Mhm.
because I don't have to worry about my mana base as much. But like the 3 I mentioned, those are the 3 decks I just cannot stand them. They just beat me. Tivit is bad for tournaments for the most part, though. I'll be honest. That's a little secret tech for you guys. Tivit goes to time. Like, that's just what he does. He goes to time. People are bad at
Yeah.
interacting with him, and people are bad at making decisions with him, and people are bad about making people play at a decent speed when playing that deck.
Well, and when one of your main win cons requires you to
Take an extra
take infinite
turn.
turns, yeah,
Not even infinite, finite turns. Even one extra turn doesn't happen in time. So
yeah,
you just lose. You just go, I play my time sieve. Okay, that's your most compact win? Yeah. You don't have a turn after this one.
yeah,
It's like, well, maybe my opponents will. No, your opponents are going to take that easy point. They're going to say, no, 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 we're not conceding. That's a time sieve, right? Yeah. Play it out.
yeah.
Tivit is one of the best decks of the format. It's just not good at tournament in the current tournament scene, in my opinion. Uh,
Mhm.
it's a real shame.
I may have one more question of just like what style of play would you consider this to be? Like, how controlly are you with it? What are you? How would you classify this deck? I guess.
Okay, this is the embodiment of the turn 3 format. This is what happens when we don't have bans directed at CDH. We get to a turn 3 solved format. My deck will consistently go for a win attempt on turn 3 if I didn't mull down to 3. It's just how it is.
Jeez.
I'd say, like, you want to play this deck as follows. You get Malcolm. You make mana. Hold up a spell if you can't play a value engine. Play a value engine, don't worry about holding up a spell. I don't know what that is. I don't believe that's control, because at certain points, control is going to try to stabilize and go for a safe win. You don't have to go for a safe win. You just go for a win every turn, or multiple wins in a turn, and you'll do it. So this is like, it's not aggro. We're not trying to be super aggressive with it. This isn't turbo. We're not trying to sacrifice stability. We are just inevitable.
Well, there you go. Before we call it here, is there anything else you want to say? Any last shout outs, anything like that?
Shout out to Chaos Tournaments. I've cast on there. I love their tournaments format. It's a great place. Please go play in their competitive league. There's $75 for first place, 50 for third and for second and third, I think, something like that. They do great charity work, but more importantly, you will end up greatly improving your game. Also, if you are interested in being coached by me, I have a simple payment setup for you guys. You can donate $10 to Magic Kids to get 1 hour with me. Send me your receipt. Any sessions after that session that you feel you need, we'll work out a pay structure after that. But for $10 to Magic Kids, you can get a 1 hour tournament breakdown, whatever you need. We'll go over what you need in the coaching session for that 1 hour. Just send me the receipt.
That seems like a pretty good deal to me. But thank you for coming on and talking about your experience and talking about the deck. And thank all of you for watching.